Hi everybody, so this video is designed to show you how to create a drawing file in Fusion. If you've used it in Inventor before, I think this method's a little bit easier. If you've never used 3D software before, the steps are pretty simple. So I'm going to do it for the Lego block. So what you can do is you can actually pull up your part, because typically you'll have your part made, and then right from your made part you're going to want to create a drawing. So over in the top left corner where it says design, you want to click that, and then you have some options. If you go all the way down to the bottom, you're going to have drawing, and you're going to click from design, which will take it right from your main design. It's going to highlight your part, or it should highlight your part. Over on the right hand side, you're going to have some options. You want to create a new drawing. We don't have a template that we could use, so we're just going to say it's from scratch. We're going to use the standard units. The sheet size we are actually going to make an 8.5 by 11. So we're going to change the sheet size from a B to an A. And there's two different orientations. You can have it in portrait mode or landscape. Typically the drawings are in landscape, but you're going to see why. I'm going to choose portrait for this one, and you're going to see why in a minute. Then you click OK, and it will automatically generate kind of Fusion's base template. Now the reason that I had selected the portrait mode is because it puts all of the information down here at the bottom, and this is kind of, I think, a large area for your information. We could create a new template that has smaller information and not so many lines, which would give us more room to have our drawing pieces, but for right now it's okay. So the first thing it's asking you to do is to place the base view. Before you click anything, if you notice that the part or the side that it's selected of the part is not exactly what I would consider the base view, right? Your base view should contain the most amount of information as possible, the most amount of detail. So over here on the right hand side under orientation, you can change what view you're looking at. So I can change it to what they call the quote-unquote the top view, but I'm going to use that as my base view. And I'm just going to click. Okay. Now I can also change the scale, right? I can change if I want it shaded or not shaded. I can show the hidden lines. I could not show the hidden lines. And again, you can adjust the scale as you see fit. For this example, I'm just going to leave everything kind of as is and click OK. You might be noticing down here, why does it say chess pawn? That's because that was the project folder that I saved my Lego block in. This may read different for you. So that's why that says that. To put in my other views, so I'm going to need a top view and some kind of side view here along with my ISO. Those are the typical views. So over here in the top left-hand corner, you have a projected view option. And if I click on that, it's going to ask me to select the parent view, which is the view that I'm coming from. So I'm going to select my front view. And if I click and drag up, notice it gives me what that view is going to look like. And I can click. And then I can do the same thing here with the side view. And if I press enter, notice those things go into place. Now you're going to also notice that I probably want to show some hidden lines, because underneath I know that it's not a solid object, right? I've got those shell features and some other stuff going on. So if I double click on the part under style, I can change to show the visible edges underneath. And I can do the same thing with this one. And then the last thing I'm looking for is a ISO image here in the top corner. So I do the same process again and click and drag that guy up there. Now, typically this part is shaded in or has some kind of contour or color to it. It doesn't have to. Okay. And now the next step would be dimensioning. So if I zoom in here, so again, a scroll wheel or using your fingers on your trackpad, I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to start dimensioning what this is going to look like. So I'm going to start dimensioning the circles. All right, so to dimension your circles, you're going to use a center mark. I'm going to click just one of the circles because it's a pattern. Okay, I don't need to dimension every single circle. What I can do is I can create a note. So after I create a center mark for my circle, under geometry, under dimensions, I can go to a diameter dimension. And if I select the circle and pull this guy out, it tells me that that circle has a diameter of 0.1. Right. Now, this has a couple things we're going to need to edit. So over here, what we can do is we can double click the dimension. So I just right clicked and clicked OK, or you can hit enter to place your dimension there. If I double click on the dimension, it brings up kind of an edit feature. Anything that's inside these kind of arrow shaped heads here, that's your dimension. Anything outside of that, we can type. So if I put my cursor at the end and I can type X, which is going to mean times, and I have 12 of them. And then I can abbreviate PCS, which means pieces. All right. So that's how I add a note to it, and I hit enter. So this tells me that there's going to be 12 of these circles. The other thing and this is more of a personal preference, but I like having a leading zero, meaning a zero that occurs before the decimal point. So to get that, over on the far left side, underneath document settings, there's an arrow, and this is why I think Fusion's a little bit nicer than Inventor or even Onshape a little bit, is because it gives you every preference that you have right here, rather than going through another pop-up box and trying to find something that way. Because if I look, it says right here, display leading zeros. No. Well, I want to change that to a yes. So to change that, I'm going to select the little icon right next to it. And what it does, it opens up the entire document settings window over here. Now, the only thing at least on my computer, that's a little wonky is it doesn't allow me to like drag the box out unless I pull this whole thing. And even then I really can't select a lot with it. And what I mean by that is it just says display. So you kind of have to leave your cursor over it so you see which option is there. So you can show the units if you wanted to. If you didn't know if it was going to be in millimeters or in inches, you can show the units there. But I want to show the leading zeros, so I'm going to select yes for this. Click OK. And then I can go through and start dimensioning my other components here. So up top, I can select the dimension tool, and I know that I have to figure out the X and the Y for that center of that circle. So I can click the edge, and then I can click that corner, and it kind of already highlights it even before I click of what it's going to be. And I can do the same thing going from the top, going down to that edge. So you notice that this kind of gets a little messy here, right? So you've got a couple of options that you can tweak and edit these. You can change the size and the text height, make it a little bit smaller. So again, if I click on this, I can change the text height, make it a little bit smaller. All right, that kind of narrows that part down a little bit. I can also then move this down a little bit. just to get it out of the way of those arrows as well. Right. And then I can continue to dimension the part. And I can keep going through and dimensioning the rest of the block. So I would do the same thing up top here. And you guys can use my dimensioned drawing. It's kind of a reference for that. One thing I want to make a note of here on the side view is this image itself is really not the best. And I think I even mentioned this when I was first talking about doing the Lego block. This doesn't really help us. Why? Because I can get all of the dimensions from the front view and the top view. I don't really need this. What I'm missing is what this Lego block looks like underneath, right? And being able to see all of those pieces. So this is a scenario where actually I don't need this view. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select it and hit the delete button. And then I'm actually going to create a new base view. And in doing so, I'm going to change the orientation so that I see the bottom of it. And now I can see the underside of that piece. Click OK. And now here, right, I can see what the underside of that is. And now from this point, I can dimension. I can give myself a center mark. And I can go through now and dimension all of those pieces. So I can dimension those circles. I can figure out how high it is from the top and the side over. The last piece is I just want to talk about how to do a note, and that comes from your text tool. So that's, you're just going to click text, and I can create a text box here. And here's where I would just type in, typically notes are in all capital letters, that shell thickness is 0.01 inches. And I click, and there it is. And then I can drag this around to wherever I want it to be. And I can move the box. I can make it one line. Whatever looks good in your orientation. So you guys can play around with that a little bit and see what you guys come up with.